The film begins in a Romanian cemetery. All of the vampires were congregating there. Rudy's birthday is discovered to be today. They get together to celebrate his birthday. Rudy was displeased with everything. He wants to celebrate outside. But his father, Fred, warns him that doing so is dangerous because a vampire hunter is on the prowl for prey. Tony, a young boy, is seen in Germany with his parents on vacation. Tony had a thing for vampires, but his parents told him that vampires aren't real. They're just made up. Tony notices two vampires from a tunnel while traveling. They were Rudy's uncle and aunt and were going to Romania to celebrate his birthday. He sees and tells his father. Due to it, his father loses attention and their car falls from a cliff. His father hardly controls the car balance. He prevents the car from being involved in an accident. The scene shifts to Romania where a man, Rookery, is shown. He asks his assistant to move the car immediately, and he was the vampire hunter. Maybe he discovered the vampire's location. On the other side, Rudy's brother appears to be tired of the party. He also plans to go out secretly from his father. Greg says to Rudy he wants to spend his life as a real vampire. Rudy also moves from there while following Greg. Greg reaches a petrol station. He starts spying on a man. Greg was planning to suck his blood. Rudy was seeing his brother secretly, and he notices Rookery. He had a device in his hand, and with its help he reached to them. Rookery also waits for Greg to attack the human. As Greg attacks, Rookery injures him while emerging UV from his device. Before Rookery holds Greg, Rudy arrives and flies with his brother. Rookery also follows them. He wants to see where they will hide. On another side, Tony and his parents are shown seeing some people coming. That was an old couple who was the castle's owner. The castle where they will spend their vacation time. The old couple tells them how they hear the car's voice and arrive here. They all return to the castle. Tony observes garlic on the castle walls. Garlic was used to prevent from vampires, and Tony tells this to his father. The castle owner tells this is just decor. Tony notices the castle owners were checking their reflection in the mirror to get to know if they are real humans or not. Rudy reaches the graveyard with his brother. He also tells his parents they hardly escape from Rookery. Rookery also reaches the graveyard and locks the gate. Rudy's father tells the guests they should run from here. Only Rudy escapes with his parents and Anna. All the guests were trapped there due to the lock on the gate. On the way, they meet Rudy's uncle and aunt, who were coming from Germany for a celebration. They tell them about Rookery, and uncle and aunt say to come with them to Germany, to live with them. Meanwhile, Rookery reaches behind them. He injures Fred with his car's UV light. Rudy saves his father and they run from there. Rookery asks his assistant to call his pilot friend, so he will come on the plane and will follow them. Soon his friend arrives on a plane. After it, they all start following them. Rudy understands like this. They will be caught. I have to do something and move far from his family. Due to it, Rookery starts following him. Like this, his family escapes safely. Rudy moves to a forest, and Rookery comes down through a parachute with his assistant. So he will search for Rudy. Rudy moves to a castle while flying. It was the castle where Tony was spending his vacations. Rookery tries to end Rudy with his UV light. Seeing this light, Tony awakes. He notices Rudy while flying when he sees outside the window. The day was about to start. Rudy comes to Tony's room from his window. Rudy sees Tony and says, while scaring him, there are humans like you who are trying to end us. The castle owners arrive while hearing those voices. Tony doesn't tell them anything about Rudy. Seeing this, Tony understands Tony is trustworthy. He is a good human. Rudy and Tony become friends soon. Tony notices Rudy's reflection is not seen in the mirror. Because it was daytime, Rudy's family slept in coffins like other vampires. Tony was scared of Rudy, but he makes him believe he will not harm him. They stay alive while sucking animals' blood. Tony lays his room's cupboard and asks Rudy to sleep in it. It was the daytime and Tony's mother comes to the room. She notices the room's cupboard in the ground. Tony says to his mother he has just laid it down for playing. Now it was breakfast time and Tony takes a tinfoil from the kitchen. He takes Rudy to the farmhouse while covering Rudy in it. There were many cows in the farmhouse and Tony brings him here for his thirst. Here, Rudy hypnotizes a cow. He removes his hunger while sucking its blood. After all this, Tony and Rudy return to their room. Tony notices Rudy becomes aggressive. On asking, Rudy tells a hunter named Rookery is chasing his family. He is trying to end all the vampires. Rudy tells him his family is in danger. Tony says, "I am your friend and I will help you." Rudy becomes shocked to see this kind of behavior. How can humans be so good? On another side, the cow that was bitten by Rudy changes into a vampire. At night, Rudy takes Tony with him for flying. Tony likes this experience, but a problem happened. The castle owners see them. Rudy notices Rookery has arrived at the... Rookery goes to the castle owner and tells them there is a vampire. After it, the castle owners take him to Tony's room. Searching the room, he understands there is a vampire came. After it, Rookery checks Tony's parents with mirrors. Their reflections are visible or not. It is confirmed here Tony's parents are not vampires. On another side, Rudy and Tony were flying. Rudy makes Tony sit at a place and moves to his parents. He tells them there is someone who will help them. Later, he brings Tony to his parents. Tony becomes happy meeting Rudy's family. Everyone was shocked how Tony is not afraid of them. Even Rudy's father tries to scare Tony. He becomes aggressive about how Rudy has made a human friend. They ask Tony to choose one from his family or Tony. Rudy becomes depressed and leaves with Tony. They were leaving. Meanwhile, Anna comes behind them. Anna was impressed by Tony and gives him a rat. She says, "Just blow a whistle if you need help." They were talking. Meanwhile, Rookery reaches there with his assistant. He drills on stones with a drill machine. He turns on the UV light while sending it inside. Before anyone gets harmed by the light, Tony turns off the light and then asks everyone to run from there. Tony fixes the wiring opposite. Due to it, Rookery feels shocked. Eventually, his equipment ruins. Everyone escaped from there, only Tony was left. Rookery checks while coming down that Tony is a human, not a vampire. He sees Tony is a human. Rookery scolds Tony that why is he helping vampires being a human. Later, he takes Tony with him while tying him, being furious. He plans to end Tony. His assistant doesn't support him, and Tony hits an idea. He says to Rookery, "My friends will come to save me if you will throw me into the water." Hearing this plan, Rookery gets trapped. He throws Tony in the water. Going into the water, Tony starts swimming. Rookery becomes furious and sends his assistant behind him to hold Tony, and Tony remembers what Anna said and blows a whistle. Hearing it, Anna and Rudy reach there. They take Tony from the water. Rookery makes noise while returning to the castle, and Tony's parents awake. They ask the castle owner what is going on here. Rookery tells them your son is a vampire. Meanwhile, Tony, Rudy, and Anna also arrive there. They see Rookery is near the castle. They notice Rookery is planning to return to Romania. He wanted to end all the vampires in Romania whom he locked. Hearing this, Rudy also plans to go to Romania. Tony also wants to come with him. Tony remembers his parents will not allow this. Anna asks them to move forward. While hypnotizing Tony's parents, she agrees with them. She makes Tony's parents meet with her parents. She tells them they can only go to Romania in their car. While flying, Rudy and Tony notice the cow whom Rudy changes into vampire. It was also coming behind them. The daytime was about to start, so Tony asks Rudy and the cow to rest in the graveyard. Rudy tells Tony Rookery has locked all the vampires. Only Rookery has its key. Tony moves in search of Rookery, who was stuck in heavy traffic on the highway. Tony secretly sits in his truck and he finds the key there. Rookery takes a shortcut to move from the traffic. The path wasn't well, so Rookery's truck breaks. Before Tony falls from the truck, he takes the key. Tony was saved. Rudy reaches the graveyard with the cow at night. Rookery is shown in his workshop and asks his assistant to make a new machine. Rookery notices his key is missing. He understands and moves to the graveyard. Tony has also arrived at the graveyard. He was trying to open all the locks. Before he opens all locks, Rookery reaches there with his assistant. He was about to shoot Tony, but Rudy saves Tony. Rookery fixes a bomb, being furious at the door, so the place will be closed forever. Seeing this, Rudy and Tony come to the door to stop the bomb. The time was short and there was a blast. Meanwhile, a wall breaks of the graveyard and Greg appears. He beats Rookery. After it, Rudy makes Greg meet with Tony. He tells Greg how Tony is helping them. Rookery again arrives and they escape from there. Tony was flying with the help of that vampire cow. Rudy and Tony's parents were reaching there to save their kids. Rookery's assistant is shown chasing them while making a helicopter. Tony crashes the helicopter with the vampire cow. After it, the assistant comes down with a parachute. Rookery follows their parents in his car. His intentions were not good. Rudy reaches there and stops Rookery's car with a wire. Rookery's assistant arrives and says, "Now I will not help you." Rookery's assistant leaves and Rookery stays alone. Even then, Rookery attacks their parents. Tony ends Rookery with his vampire cow. They all were happy, and Rudy's parents take Tony's parents for a ride in the sky. All vampires were released here, but Rudy was depressed. Tony asks him what happened. Rudy says now they have no shelter to live in. Tony hits an idea. He transports them to the castle where he spent his vacations. In the final scene, all of the vampires are shown being transferred to the castle. This is where the film ends.